Welcome everyone to episode 31 of This Week in Geek. My name is Ren. I am just one of your humble co-hosts. As always, I am joined by my good friend all the way from Arizona, US of A, Zach Pope. How are you doing today, Zach?
I'm good, man. I'm just tired and gonna be a
Tired for
busy
good
day.
reasons, because I know you're staying up late playing probably the game of the year, but we'll get
Yeah,
to that in a
yeah.
bit. Of course, you know how this show works. Me and Zach are going to run through our main topic of today. And on today's episode, Phase 4 of the MCU has officially come to a close. So we're going to run down our thoughts on this phase, looking back on everything, the good and the not so good that it had to offer. And then we're going to go into your questions that you leave in the community tab. Of course, that's not the only way you can leave your questions. You can also support the channel while you ask great questions through the tip link or super chat, and the tip link is in the description below. So without any further ado, I say let's get to it, because before our main topics, we need to go to the weekly ranking. That's me and Zach running through everything we watched this past week and ranking it from worst to best. And of course, you guys are welcome to share your weekly rankings in the live chat, or if you're listening to us on Spotify, thank you so much for listening to us, for taking us with you on your jog, on your run, on your commute, on your workout in the gym. However you're listening to us, thank you so much. And don't forget to rate us 5 stars, because this is the best podcast for movie news and movie topics. All right. I don't know what that all right was, but it sounded weird. Without any further ado, I don't know why, man, but I watched R.I.P.D. 2 out of
Dude, I actually want to see this.
sheer morbid curiosity, um, sheer lazy Sunday morning. Let's watch it, and it's bad. Like it's really bad, but it's boringly bad. It's not like such a misfire that it is entertaining. It's like, yeah, this is a shitty movie as much as you expected it to be a shitty movie.
Is it better than the
It's a
first one?
worst
I've
version.
never seen the
No,
first one.
it's a worst version of the original, which is
Oh,
saying something. The original is just so bland and boring, where neither the charm and charisma of Reynolds or Jeff Bridges can save it, and this doesn't even have those supposed good things going for it. So just don't watch it. Just skip this one entirely. On top of that, and before I say what the next one is, because Zach is gonna get mad at me, I just want to say that there's a major difference. Like there's a major gap between R.I.P.D. and the movie I'm about to name. Next one, it's a good movie, okay? Just don't log off, Zach. This is a good movie, but I didn't take too much away from
I know
Marcel the
you're gonna.
Shell with
Yeah,
Shoes
I
On.
I saw your letterbox.
Uh, it's fine. It's really charming. It's really endearing. It's so sweet. I feel like it's kind of I would love to see Paddington meeting Marcel, but Paddington, and I don't want to dive into comparisons, but Paddington, there's much to take away from it. Marcel is just really sweet, and once it's over, I personally didn't give it too much thought. So I enjoy the experience. I'm glad I watched it so I can comment and participate in the conversation, but I'm just not going to think too much on it from now on. On top of that, I'm going to have Terrifier 2. Finally watched this last night. This was my 200th movie of 2022. I've officially seen 200 movies from this year. The ones I didn't review on my channel, I made sure to review them on Letterboxd as I add them to my list. So go follow me on Letterboxd. The link is in the description. This is just bonkers. This is nasty, carnage candy, violence, and it's just super entertaining. It is a 2 hours and 20 minute slasher with a very extended mid-credit scene. Like you think movies with mid-credit scene, this is like an entire sequence
Yeah,
that is
isn't it like 10
very
minutes
key.
long?
I didn't count it, but it probably is, to the point where I knew Chris Jericho was in this movie, but like 10 minutes before the movie ended, I'm like, wait, where's Chris Jericho? He wasn't in this movie at all. Did I just fall asleep? Did I not pay attention? Because I didn't see him and I didn't even hear his voice. And then the scene starts playing, and I'm like, okay, here we go. And then, sure enough, there he was. So that's my number three. Like, it is a very bloated runtime. It shouldn't be that long, but for what it's doing, for what it is accomplished on a 250K budget, It is impressive.
Do I need to see the first one? I don't want to watch the first one. I genuinely have no interest in watching it.
You don't need to. They recap it enough, and I'm not a big fan of the first one.
That's my thing. So, everyone I've talked to has just told me
it's not like absolutely needed. Like, you know what? Watch the opening scene of the first one.
Okay.
And then go to the second one. So you understand something that happens in that mid-credit sequence.
Okay, because I want to see the second one, but I have been putting it off because it's 2.5 hours. That's
But just watch the opening scene of the first one. The let's say the interview in the first one that opens the film, and then you can skip to number 2. On top of it, of Terrifier 2, I'm going to have this week's release, Wakanda Forever. Black Panther Wakanda Forever. This is a very, very powerful movie. I've only been able to see it once. I'm going back tomorrow for my second viewing. And I really want to talk about this film. Next week, we're going to be able to talk full spoilers. Not that it is going to necessarily be the topic of next week's show, but next week you'll be able to ask full-on spoilers question and all that. So over that, I'm going to have, surprisingly, you never thought you'd hear me say this, but the Selena Gomez My Mind and Me documentary on Apple Plus, really good stuff. Did not expect to be that good, especially not only because it's a documentary of like Selena Gomez. I love her in Only Murders in the Building, but like outside of that, I've never really paid much attention to her. This is really introspective. It feels personal. It feels raw without any facade or pretense to it. And it really connected to me on a personal level for obvious reasons if you've seen it. But on number 1, watched it on Sunday, reviewed it on Monday, the original Black Panther. This is a banger of a movie. There are some small elements that I feel the sequel improves on, but just overall, this is such a great movie. It's not quite top tier MCU, but it's top middle tier MCU for me. But just overall, you guys know the MCU for me at its very worst is very middle of the road. It's just very watchable. Black Panther is just such a fun, and impressive, really, accomplishment when it comes to the MCU. So that's my. Never mind. My number 1 is actually, and I've only seen the first 6 episodes, the new show from the creators of Dark coming out next week on Netflix, 1899. This is a mind trip of a show, guys. If you
love, it international too again?
Yes. Yes. Okay. You have cool. German characters, Polish characters, you have a Portuguese character, Spanish, English, and you hear a lot of the languages, but then to communicate with one another, people mostly speak English. Dark is just German, and you should watch Dark.
Dark was German.
Dark is one of the greatest shows of all time. Top 10, easy, without question. Maybe even top 5 if I think about it. But this is a banger of a show thus far. If you like your slow burn, trippy, puzzling, long-term storytelling, this is a show you're going to want to sink your teeth onto. So that's my weekly ranking. Zach, what do you got?
All right, so down at the bottom for me, and this I still really like this. I liked everything I watched this entire week to love. The only thing I just liked, though, was the Selena Gomez, My Mind and Me. This is coming in last place. I liked it. I thought it was very well done. But I don't know. There's just something about the documentary stuff. I'm not a huge fan of documentaries. So, like, I think that's just a big weight. Like, I can genuinely see the greatness in one. And I think there's a lot of emotional moments to this. But I wasn't, like, fully invested in it. So that's kind of why that one goes. Up next is Del Toro's Pinocchio movie coming to Netflix pretty soon.
Yes.
I loved it. And when I say this movie and Up, I loved. Del Toro did such a phenomenal job with this film, and I'll be honest, I think it's a little too long. That was like my only issue with the movie. There's like there's some war stuff in this movie that I liked, but I wish wasn't in it fully. I think thematically I didn't need it to be in there, but thematically what I loved was some of the stuff with like the conversation on like, can Pinocchio die? I mean, that is a thematically very interesting thing to ask. and what happens if he can or can't. There are
Mhm.
interesting elements, and I found Del Toro just explored life itself in such a unique way with fucking Pinocchio. And also Pinocchio, like when you first see him, I mean, it's like Frankenstein's monster, like to
Yeah.
Geppetto. So I really love that. So that is my next one. Up next after that, let me look at my list. I have Black Panther Wakanda Forever. Now, I love this movie. I loved this movie. I've seen it twice now. The first time I saw it, I was at a 4 out of 5. The second time I saw it, I went to a 4.5 out of 5. All my issues kind of just I still have a couple
Washed
grievances with the
away.
movie. Yeah. I still have a couple things when it comes down to like plotting. Like, there's just too many subplots sometimes where I'm like, I would have cut that out. I would have rewrote this. Now, understand it's an MCU film, so people I've talked to have told me that some of that stuff might tie into the future, and specifically within a couple characters that I can't talk about. But when it comes around grief, when it comes around the cycle of violence, when it comes around trauma, hatred, revenge, all those elements, just Ryan Coogler just put that on the page. And I find it so beautiful and heartbreaking that an artist was able to really, like, in a big budget studio, was letting them
Yeah.
make a big budget film like this. It's a very mature movie that does not give a shit in what you like. It's what the actors and what the director is feeling. And I find that to be, like, in my memory at least, I don't remember a movie where the actors are mourning a character the same way that they're mourning the actor who passed away at the same time of
I
making the
don't know
film.
either.
Like, I guess
Yeah.
Furious 7, but Paul Walker was still in the movie. Like, the character was
Yeah.
still in the movie. So this is a very different, and I loved it. It's gonna be weird to see how this one holds up on rewatches though. Like in a couple of years when I go back to do a ranking, how I'll feel on this movie rewatching it that many times. Because I'll be honest, this is, as I've seen it twice now, I don't need to see it again in theaters. That's just the way I feel. It's a heavy movie that I don't know if I need to see it again. But all I can
Okay.
say this right now. I cannot wait to see what Ryan Coogler does next. Part of me feels
Four
like
for
he's
four,
gonna.
man. He's 4 for 4.
Yeah, What's your favorite film of his? I still think mine's Creed.
The original Black Panther.
Oh, okay, fair enough. That
Yeah.
movie's fucking awesome.
Creed next.
Fruitvale.
And then I prefer Black Panther Wakanda Forever to Fruitvale, because it's just my style of film. But maybe Fruitvale Station would take the number 3.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
But I definitely have a feeling on what's coming next for Black Panther. But I don't want to get into it because of it.
Yeah,
could result in
we
spoilers,
definitely
so
can't get into it.
But I
Even if
definitely
we're wrong.
I
Yeah, 'cause
definitely
they
think
definitely
I know.
suggest it.
I definitely think I know who's going to be the villain for the next one. So
Okay.
just deep down,
Send me
I
in
do.
the private chat. Send me in the private chat. All right, everyone. Let's see.
Oh, I still have more.
Who
I
else?
still got more.
Oh, you still? I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
No,
Please
you're
go
all
ahead.
good. So up next, I have RRR. I finally watched it. I fucking dug the shit
Oh.
out of it. I found this movie to be so much fucking fun. There's a dull, slow point where it needs to flash back to explain something about a character that I think kind of really started to kill the pacing.
There's many dull slow points if you ask me, but that's another conversation.
I enjoyed all the others. I didn't mind any of the others. I just had a blast with it. But there was one specifically where it's like it's building and building and building and building.
Yeah. I know.
Slow point, and it just hits a wall, and I'm like, what the fuck?
It
like,
hits a wall so much that I was like, did I? Did we? What is happening? I missed completely how we got here.
Yeah,
like the transition even is not well done. It's just
it's not. That is the one issue I have with the movie. Like, straight up, everything else I adored about this film. All right, up next now I have in my second, Bones and All. I finally watched this and I fucking loved it. I think it's almost perfect. I wish, and I understand why Luca did it, but I usually look at a runtime before I go into a movie just to kind of prepare. Okay, how long is this movie going to be? I forgot to look at this one, and the second I sat down, I'm like, fuck, this is a Luca Guadagnino movie. This movie could be fucking 2 hours and 45 minutes for all I know. It's not. It's 2 hours and 10, but 10 minutes of this film could have been cut out. The last 10 minutes of this movie, I did not think was needed at all. I
I
thought it was
disagree
interesting.
with you
Oh man,
completely.
I did not like it complete. Like it didn't kill anything for me. I felt the
Oh
length.
man.
I love the
Did you notice,
scene.
by the way, this is not a spoiler for those of you who haven't seen it. Did you
The
notice
van.
who was playing Timothy Chalamet's sister?
No.
Martin Scorsese's daughter.
Oh, that's
Francesca
why she looked so
Scorsese.
fucking
Yeah,
familiar. Oh, okay, she looked really familiar, and I was like, I have no
yeah.
idea who the fuck this is. Interesting. There's a lot of great like when an actor shows up, like Mark Rylance. Oh my god, he's
What a
fucking
creep
great.
son of a bitch.
Yeah, yeah,
My
and then
God.
Michael Stuhlbarg too, dude.
Yeah. I,
So
I,
I
I
love
I do feel bad that Luca, Michael, and Timothy Chalamet reunited to do a cannibal movie, but they didn't invite their cannibal friends.
right.
I think that's insensitive
Yeah,
on their
but
part.
I love this. I thought Taylor Russell was fucking incredible. And honestly, I mean, this is a horror movie in the heart of it. It is a it is a horror movie, so it is very gory. It is very sometimes hard to watch. I'll give it that. I'm sure not as bad as Terrifier 2, but it can be a little
Yeah.
bit difficult, but yeah, just the last 10 minutes. I didn't hate it. Like I didn't hate the last 10 minutes. I liked it. I just thought it like added to the runtime, and it really didn't feel
All
needed.
right.
Like that thing with the character, I didn't feel like it was needed, but I like thematically what they
Oh
were trying
man.
to do. Well, my number one of the week is The Menu. This is fucking the best movie. I saw this in the last like 3 weeks. I fucking love this movie.
Told you.
This movie is
Did
so
you?
fucking.
So, without spoilers, you immediately went to get some food, a specific item after the movie, right?
No, I mean
No.
I had to go see Bones and all literally 10 minutes later, so I didn't
Oh,
even have
okay,
I didn't
okay.
have time to go get any food.
But you
But I
wanted
know what
to.
you're talking about. I know what you're talking about. Yeah, I definitely want. It's funny. The next day, I was
Mhm.
craving that, so I bought one
Nice.
before Black
Nice.
Panther. So,
Nice.
yeah, dude, I love The Menu. I've seen some reviews where people gave it like 2 out of 5, and I'm like,
Dude,
how?
over here, it was a surprise film at the festival, and I was the only person who loved it.
That's fucking insane to me. This
I'm
movie,
like,
any other year, would be an Oscar contender. Actually, not even every
and it's
other
probably
year.
gonna be. I wouldn't be shocked if it is.
I don't think it will
Honestly,
be. I genuinely
honestly,
like. I will say right
best
now,
picture, not best
no,
picture,
not Best Picture. I
but I
don't
can
think it
see
gets
best
nominated
screenplay.
for anything.
Oh wow.
So
Okay.
I don't know how much they can do on screenplay. So I talked to one of my friends, and he
Mhm.
told me most of the movie is actually improv.
One of the writers, they had a quick Q&A after the film. They
Oh,
said
okay,
they allowed the actors to improv a lot, but
okay,
I personally haven't heard that it is mostly improv. But that's just
okay.
me.
I don't know what the percentage of is because I know like
Mhm.
Aladdin's script wasn't allowed because fucking Robin Williams went off
Oh,
like
okay.
insane. So Aladdin's script never got counted because when they looked at the film and the script,
Mhm.
all of his lines were different. Like almost every
Okay,
line of his was different. So I don't know if that's like something that's kind of the same thing
that
here,
makes
but I don't
sense.
know. I love this movie. I've read some reviews where I'm like, why do you not like this movie? Like this
Yeah.
movie is so good, and I think this movie is like I don't even have an issue with this movie. Like I do not have an issue. I wouldn't give it an A+, but I do not have an issue with this film. Like
I
looking
have
back,
one issue that didn't allow me to give it an A+, which was one of
what
the characters.
which
I'm
one?
going to tell you the character in the private chat. One of the characters, I felt like it didn't meet like a proper
Oh,
resolution
okay.
thematically. Like it was a lot of it was
Forgot
alluded to, but
forgot about
then
them.
it never follows through on it. So like that was my only issue. Apart from that, like this is the best satire movie of the year. Triangle of Sadness. This is the better version of what Triangle of Sadness does.
I never saw
Um,
that. I never saw it.
it's good, man. It's a good watch. I
I'm gonna
think you're
wait
gonna
till
like
the
it.
I'm gonna wait till it goes home.
Yeah, that
I
makes
saw the
sense.
runtime
Yeah.
and it's too long.
That was your number one because I think you and I forgot what our actual number one is this week. We both forgot it. Uh,
What?
and we forgot it because we saw it last week. I saw it like on Saturday or
Oh, I saw
Sunday.
it 3 weeks
Um,
ago.
you saw it
Saw this
3 weeks ago. Okay.
Yeah, I just
Andor
went.
episode 10, guys. It's
Yeah.
the best piece of Star Wars media since The Last Jedi. With no exaggeration, my favorite piece of dialogue in all of Star Wars. It's brilliant. Stellan Skarsgård's monologue at the end of this, it's like his entire diatribe on what he's fighting for. That's Star Wars. If anyone From this day forward, if anyone ever asks me, so what is Star Wars about? I'm going to recite that monologue.
Yep.
That's how good it is. All
They
right, guys.
both deserve a guest. Stellan deserves
Yeah.
best supporting. Andy
Yeah.
deserves the best guest.
So good. So good. Cannot wait to see this week's Center. I'm really hyped now.
I have no
Jigo
idea
AP with
whether.
his
Yeah.
weekly ranking. My weekly ranking, number 8, Causeway. Great performances, decent movie. That is accurate. Number 7, Weird, the Ali Yankovic story. Number 6, Black Panther. Number 5, Andor episode 10. Number 4, Selena Gomez, My Mind and Me. Raquel Sachs. Poor Raquel. She had a bad moment. Number 3, Atlanta series finale. Oh, the entire series is out. I might finally watch it. Number 2, Blackbird, not the Alter Bridge album, which is their best album, by the way. The Taron Egerton and Paul Walter Hauser Apple TV Plus show. Also need to watch that. Number 1, Black Panther Wakanda Forever. Loved it even better than the first, in my opinion. That's awesome, dude. Luis Feliciano, weekly ranking. Number 2, The Crown Season 5. Number 1, the Batman, The Mask of the Phantasm. R.I.P. Kevin Conroy. That was such a loss, man. Yesterday, I was recording for like 2 hours on the Black Panther Wakanda Forever spoiler review. It's now up on the channel for you to watch. And then just came out to see the news on Twitter with you all sharing it on the chat. And fuck cancer, man. Fuck cancer. This sucks. Way too young to go out. Did not deserve it. Eric did I miss? Nope. Dominican Scott. Number 7, Stargirl, episode 7 and 8. Number 6, Kung Fu season 3. Number 5, Matrix Resurrections. Number 4, Chicago Med, Fire and PD. Number 3, Happiest Season. That is an underrated movie. Number 2, Black Widow. Number 1, Cobra Kai season 5. Eric Thorpe. Number 1, Better Call Saul season 3. Number 2, Black Panther. Number 3, The White Lotus season 2. Number 4, Birds of Prey, and I'm not going to read the rest of the title. Number 5, Black Panther Wakanda Forever, below Birds of Prey. Damn, gotta disagree on that, brother, massively. Number 6, The Flight Attendant season 2, and there's the continuation. Number 7, Batman Beyond season 2. Number 8, Enola Holmes 2. Number 9, Blockbuster season 1. And number 10, The Peripheral. I still need to start that show. I just started The English yesterday. And I'm not convinced that I'm going to keep going, even though it stars Emily Blunt. Blockbuster also, I gave up on it. I started watching it in the background as I edited. I didn't even pay attention to the finale, so that was a rough watch. All right, everyone. With that out of the way, it's hard to say it, but it's true. Phase 4 is over. After almost 2 years, we started in January 2021. After over a year of hiatus from Spider-Man Far From Home, then we started with WandaVision. And what a ride it's been. The most divisive phase in the MCU, the one that tore the fandom apart. Not torn apart, but divided the fandom into battlegrounds. And if you ask me, it's probably their most exciting phase yet. Not that makes it necessarily the best phase. I don't think it is the best phase. The best phase is still number 3 for me. But I would categorize every phase in the MCU as great. And I would put phase 4 at number 3 when it comes to the phase rankings. Phase 4 has been a roller coaster of emotion, and I will say that thematically it is the most cohesive phase. Where thematically you're just debating after the big massive loss of Endgame. And this phase allows you to feel the impact of and the significance of that event and the repercussions of that through the MCU. It is entirely a phase about grief. And honestly, it started with Far From Home, which was still in phase 3. This phase is all about grief. How do you cope? How do you bounce back? How do you keep going? How do you move on? And what is there in the future for each and every one of these characters? This phase is about all of them finding what's next for each of them. And I thought that was really compelling to see. I think thematically it is the strongest phase. That doesn't necessarily mean they pull it off in the most perfect way. That doesn't necessarily mean that the individual pieces are the strongest. But it certainly gives it an advantage because you have a balance of familiar characters who are coming into this phase feeling the effects of the past, at this point 14 years, but then you have new characters who may not necessarily be tied or connected to anything that has happened thus far directly, but as real people, you're allowed to connect with them. You're allowed to connect with these characters emotionally because they're going through relatable struggles. And that's what grounds the fantastical of the MCU and makes all these characters compelling, because that's always been the strongest element of the MCU. It's the character work. Maybe the story is never the best part of a single one of their films, but it's the characters that pull you in. It's like when you watch a long TV show, and a lot of people say the MCU is technically that, you're not necessarily always connected to the stories. You're not always necessarily engaged into the plotting, but the characters bring you into this world because the characters are a reflection of our real world, of the human condition. And I think this phase really reflected that in its good elements and in its flaws. And it dove much deeper to characters in ways that I never expected. So this phase is a win for me. There are certainly issues to have with this phase. There are certainly issues to have with certain decisions they've made. I will say the weakest thing the MCU has ever put out is on this phase. But most of the shows and movies in this phase sit very high on my MCU ranking. I think that's all I gotta say so far. I need my colleague here, my friend, to give your thoughts on Phase 4, and then we'll bounce back off of one another. What do you think of Phase 4, brother?
I think Phase 4 is the second best phase. If it wasn't for Endgame Infinity War, I think this would be the best one. Honestly. I think Phase 4 was fucking fantastic. And like you mentioned, all the themes and how cohesive it was, this was also about introducing, reformatting, and bringing new things to the MCU. And introducing a lot of different concepts. Because it's not just about, like, I see G. Colby talked about grief, loss, legacy, time moving forward past something that's tough. We also introduced a lot of new themes and elements. When you look into this, we meet Shang-Chi. We get the first introduction to horror in two different things, Werewolf by Night and Doctor Strange Multiverse of Madness. We get introduced to yes. We get introduced to Kang the Conqueror, the brand new villain of this. And honestly,
by the way, let me interrupt real quick, because one of the things I got super excited at the press screening for Wakanda Forever is when the MC came in. Hey, everyone, how you doing? Before the movie, we're going to show you the brand new trailer for Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania, and I had never seen it on the big screen, so I was like, fuck yes, and it was awesome. Please continue.
That's cool.
Want to say that.
But they introduced Kang, and they introduced the TVA, and I'll say this right now. I think Kang's going to be the best villain in the entire MCU. Because one, Jonathan Majors is a fucking awesome villain. Well, like, number one's Thanos right now for me. Just thematically, everything they did with him was great. His introduction was already better than when we first were introduced to Thanos, ever. I mean, we were introduced to Thanos in the end of the Avengers and then in Guardians of the Galaxy. This was better in every sort of light. I loved his monologue. I loved his acting. And I cannot wait to see him in Quantumania. Now, I might pull back on that if they start making him fucking pull out jokes and shit with Ant-Man and fucking slapping the knee and laughing their ass off. That ain't gonna go good with me. But and then you get Moon Knight. No, not at all. But then you get Moon Knight and you get Miss Marvel and She-Hulk, which is very weak. But I like the character. I like Tatiana. But you know what we got reintroduced back in there? Charlie Cox, man. He's back as Daredevil. So all of these things, like Phase 4, and then the Eternals too, dude. Like, we get introduced to the Celestials and everything of that. So, like,
the most underrated movie in the MCU. And then,
like, I don't know, because people shit on Thor, and that's just like.
But people have stopped shitting so much on Thor. People, at the very least, now say Thor is good. Like, I don't see it's.
Dude, I don't hear that.
Most people's favorites.
Okay.
The original Thor. I don't see it being most people's favorites, and it should be, because the first Thor is fucking incredible. But Eternals gets the prize for most underrated because it just gets hate. Like, people say Eternals suck, and I'm like, all right, we watch different movies. That's fair. I respect that, brother, but I gotta disagree.
Yeah, but also this phase did two more things. Like, when it comes back to characters that we've already been met with, they change their lives in drastic ways.
Yeah.
Black Widow, we have a new perspective on now, completely. Now, while this movie definitely should have fucking came out years ago,
it's the one movie I watched out of a release order. The entire MCU I watched in release order, except Black Widow. Black Widow, I put on immediately after Civil War.
Yep, and I don't give a fuck. I fucking love Black Widow. I don't love the third act, but I love the whole family element of that, and I love, and again, reintroducing and making us look at something different. Now, Thor. Can we talk spoilers for Thor? I mean, it's been out for a couple months. I can talk spoilers, right?
I haven't even seen the assembled for that. That's how busy I've been.
Oh, okay. Thor has a kid now. Like, he's taking care of a kid now. Love. And when you find out what Love and Thunder means...
You and I are going down with the Love and Thunder ship.
I don't give a fuck. In fact,
you and I are keeping the Love and Thunder ship up. We are not letting it sink.
I love this movie.
I will tell you that much.
I love this movie so much. Like, but I just love thematically, like, what it does. And then Spider-Man, dude, where he's at now in his life to when we'll probably see him next will be completely different.
Lost everything.
Yeah, everything. And I'm going to tell you right now, gut feeling, I think he's in Daredevil Born Again. I think he's going to be in the final episode. And I think the next Spider-Man film. Yep, and I think and I know nothing about... I know nothing.
Great movie. Great movie and great steelbook.
But I definitely think he's going to show up in there. And I think that'll lead into the next Spider-Man film. And I think that Spider-Man film will be him and Daredevil. One in hand. And
I don't know that I want that, to be honest.
I don't know if I want it either, but knowing how and seeing how they're doing the phase and hearing Kevin Feige talk about how they're the two street level characters, it just kind of makes sense. And I think if they're going to do Kingpin as a villain and say Spider-Man as a street level for now, it kind of makes sense because you're only going to get bigger.
Sorry.
I hate you, but that's true.
You're not wrong. Though.
Yeah, I mean, you're not wrong at all. I'm so tired of people. I probably argue with one person. Someone commented on my ranking, and they're like, Love and Thunder really that high? And I'm like, yes, it's a great movie. It's a great fucking movie. I wasn't
expecting to get that when I ranked the Thor movies, and I didn't. I didn't have like anyone agreeing with me, but I genuinely did not get vitriol, which I was surprised by. I was like, that's really cool.
I don't get the hate. Like, I talk to people and I'm just like, but you like Thor Ragnarok.
Yeah.
Why? Yeah. This is a better version of Thor Ragnarok. Like, and I've
always said since we first saw it, I was like, this is the refined version of whatever Ragnarok was doing.
Yeah. Like, my coworker.
And I've come to enjoy Ragnarok. I've come to watch it and have a good time. But emotionally, zero. It's a Saturday morning cartoon. Like, it's, you know what? It's Beyblade. One of the Saturday morning cartoons I enjoyed watching as a kid, but like, I was just like in the adrenaline of it, and emotionally I didn't take anything away from it, was Beyblade. I still enjoyed watching it. Is it fantastic? No, not really. Now, when it came to Digimon, I was fully engrossed in that narrative. That's Thor, Love and Thunder. That's the two difference between these Saturday morning cartoons. But you're very right. And besides all that, the grief, the moving on, the coping with pain, and learning from that pain, it also, with Thor particularly, and with Eternals, even with Moon Knight, like those three are like the main ones for me. Marvel started a little bit debating, and I think it does that best with Eternals and then Moon Knight, the relationship of man and God, of mortal beings and immortal beings. Like, what is the relationship? What is the status of power?
Namor,
there?
Too. Think about it, Namor.
Namor now. Well, but Namor...
He's not a god, but you know what I mean. Like,
he's not a god, but he's seen as a god. But that's the thing. He's not actually a god. He is something else that we'll talk about next week. But but yeah, the introduction of those strong themes and I also love that it was the phase that allowed the directors to be themselves,
To
and
do
that
different things.
and that is not necessarily a good thing. I will tell you that right away. That is not necessarily a thing that will result for a lot of people, and it clearly didn't, and that's fair. But Doctor Strange: The Multiverse of Madness, that's a Sam Raimi movie, no matter how you want to
Hmm.
look at it, and that will mean it will either work for you or totally not work. Thor: Love and Thunder
Eternals.
is 100% a Taika Waititi movie.
Yep.
Eternals, 100%
The
a
Chloe
Chloe
Zhao.
Zhao movie. Shang-Chi and the Legend of the Ten Rings, it's 100%
Destiny.
a kung fu movie from Asian cinema in general.
Well,
And
and
it's fantastic.
Wakanda Forever is 100% a Ryan Coogler movie.
Oh,
Like,
a million
like
percent. Million percent. It's
yeah,
not even
like
funny
that, and
how
that
much
was
of a
actually
Ryan
the
Coogler
thing
movie it is.
walking out. So my friend, we went with like a group of friends a couple days ago, and one friend in that group fucking hates Marvel movies. He is just over it.
Why
He's
are you
not
friends
into.
with this person?
I've known him forever, and I love him. I
Not an
love his
excuse.
opinions on film. But he's not huge into the MCU. He's just burnt out on comic book movies. He's tired of it. Black Panther's the exception. He literally loves, and he wanted to go see this, and he loved it. He loved this movie. I do want to show him Thor: Love and Thunder. I think he'd like Thor: Love and Thunder. I know he would fucking love Eternals. I know he would love Eternals. I'm planning on
Eternals
doing a
is
video with him on
fucking
that
good.
one. But yeah, like he's just over it, and hearing his reaction, like he is very impressed with what Phase 4 has done. He hasn't watched everything, but he's impressed with, like, he loved Moon Knight. He was very impressed with
Nice.
Loki. Um,
The best show thus far.
I think honestly, and not everyone's gonna kill him. That's why I'm not saying his name. But the only thing I think genuinely the only thing that he's because he hated She-Hulk, but that doesn't. He didn't really like Spider-Man. That was the big one I was kind of surprised by. He didn't really like Spider-Man.
Wow.
He
Okay.
loved the second half of the film. Hated the first half. The first half was such like a
Our
bar.
friend Griffin, he kind of felt that way too. Like I don't
Yeah,
think he hated the first half, but he certainly was very on the first half.
yeah. Because like Far From Home is like my friend's like one of his favorites in the
All
MCU,
right.
and he was so disappointed with how they like
Wow.
followed that up. But yeah, man, I get it. Oh, and then he didn't like Doctor Strange. He was very disappointed in Doctor Strange, but he liked the direction. Which
Okay.
that's how I feel.
That's fair.
I was disappointed in Doctor Strange. Like I liked it, but
That's
I don't
fair.
know.
Um, yeah, man. I just think this phase had so much to offer, creatively speaking, thematically speaking. It is super rich, and you can already tell how much it's going to impact the MCU. And like we were talking about, in terms of singularly showcasing the visions and the voices of its directors, even the shows. WandaVision is nothing, for better or worse. WandaVision is nothing like Falcon and Winter Soldier, which is nothing like Loki, which is nothing like Moon Knight, which is nothing like Ms. Marvel, which is nothing like She-Hulk, which is nothing like What If. All these shows just feel
Or
so
Hawkeye.
unique, or Hawkeye. All of them just feel so unique and different. I cannot wait for Christmas season to go back to Hawkeye and rewatch that for the first time.
Yeah,
It's
and then
actually going to
technically
be
we still have Guardians holiday special. That could
Still have
be
Guardians Holiday Special. Yeah,
so.
that's when I'm going to rank all the Marvel TV shows. Tomorrow, I'm releasing my Phase 4 ranking.
I'm
I
whole.
just do not.
I should do the Phase 4 ranking, but I'm waiting
But
till
you've already
Guardians
done the
is.
whole thing. I don't have time to do the whole thing. I
Yeah.
have a job tomorrow, and it's just going to keep me. So I'm going to be able to record Phase 4 today and edit tomorrow before going to Black Panther Wakanda Forever Round 2. I just don't have time. Maybe I'll compensate when the holiday special comes out, or even a massive ranking at the end of the year for the entirety of the MCU. But looking back on Phase 4, in retrospect, all the brand new heroes that we met there are so exciting. Moon Knight, Shang-Chi, Ms. Marvel, and now Namor. Like, all these new characters are very high up in terms of my favorite MCU characters. No joke. I really love all these guys. Wenwu, Namor again, Gore, all of them rank very high up in terms of MCU antagonists and villains for me. I think this phase was the phase of expansion. It had a lot to do. It had a massive undertaking on its shoulders, and it certainly displayed some inconsistencies. It was
Mhm.
because it was also the phase that was affected by COVID. This
And
is
they
the
were
phase that
also trying to
was
figure out
shuffled
TV shows for
around.
the first time.
Yeah, and it was Marvel's first tackling at TV shows. And in my opinion, they have two great ones. Three, if I want to be more forgiving of WandaVision. Um, they're only going to get better from here. Where
Mhm.
Marvel screwed up, maybe too strong a term, but Iron Man 2 wasn't that great. They
Mm-mm.
learned from those lessons and they improved on it.
Yep.
And I think even
They still have
even
not had a shit thing though. That's
they
something to
still have
remember.
not had a
They've
shit
still
thing.
not had a
Yeah.
Morbius. Like everything they've
No.
done has
Well,
at
but to be fair,
least
that is the shittest of the shits. Let's be more realistic. They still not had a Venom.
that's true. But like, and that's my thing. Like people give She-Hulk shit. She-Hulk's still fine to watch. Like it's not a bad
Yeah,
show. I mean,
yeah.
structurally,
If
sure,
it
you could
had been a
argue that.
40-minute, 1 hour long show, maybe I would be angrier at it. No pun intended, because She-Hulk,
Yeah.
you know. Um,
But you can
but
watch it and
a
pass
20-minute
time and have
sitcom,
fun.
yeah,
Sure, be like
yeah,
whatever. Like I would have liked more from that show, but I didn't. I mean, it was like nothing from me. But and that's my thing. I think Phase 5 is even going to be better. I think Phase 5 has a lot. And I think
I
that's
think
going to
so
be
too.
more of the return to this is what the MCU is now that we've established everything. You
Mhm.
got Loki season 2 next year, Secret Invasion, Echo, Ant-Man, Guardians, Captain
Two
Marvel.
of those three shows you named, I'm super excited for.
So, I think Echo. I honestly like. I'm hyped for everything. Like every time, no matter what it is, like I'm always interested to see what they're gonna do. Is it
I,
my
I,
least
I,
favorite?
I'm not, but I'm in a place where convince me, prove me wrong, make me excited with the first trailer.
Oh, and then
As of right,
Ironheart. Ironheart's next year too,
yep,
and
I'm
Agatha.
still not excited for that either.
Oh, I'm more excited after Wakanda, but not super
I'm
excited.
not.
But
In terms of, and that's not an issue with Wakanda Forever itself, but as a showcase to make me more excited for Ironheart as a show, it didn't make me more excited. It makes her a more enjoyable character. I like her more as a character than Echo for sure, and I think the show in and of itself has more promise. But similarly to America Chavez in Doctor Strange: The Multiverse of Madness, she was more of a plot device rather than anything else.
I agree. I can see that. Yeah.
All right, everyone. Let us know your thoughts on Phase 4, whether you're conversing in the live chat, you're watching this on the replay, or you're listening to us on Spotify. What is your look back on Phase 4 of the MCU, the first phase in the multiversal saga? Anything and everything down there. And with that out of the way, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to go into your questions on the community tab. If you want to leave more questions, if you want to guarantee they are answered, make sure you consider the tip link in the description or super chatting us to support the show. And before we move on to that, we do have someone to thank, Zach. Our friends at Movie Plate are still carrying their discount code. Use the discount code that I am completely forgetting right now. I believe it is REN15, REN 15, all caps. Use that and pick a movie palette of your choice for your background and have that as your movie decor. The code is REN15 and there's a link for their site in the description below. They are incredible. They are an incredible service. They have really good prices. So get a palette of your favorite movie. All right. Starting with Diminisian Scott on the live questions. And we start with R.I.P. Kevin Conroy. What's your favorite Batman movie or series with Kevin Conroy? Again, this one really sucked. I really wish this one wasn't true. 66, just too young, man, too young. Favorite series is Batman the Animated Series, easy, and movie is also easy. The Mask of the Phantasm. Two fantastic movies, a fantastic movie, a fantastic series, and he thankfully have been voicing Batman to this day. He was doing it up until very recently. He never stopped doing Batman,
Mm-hmm.
and in many ways, he is the quintessential Batman that all the Nolan movies, the Ben Afflecks, even now a little bit of the Batman modeled themselves after. So, R.I.P. Kevin Conroy. We will miss you, Zach.
First, I just want to say, if the rumors are true and they're making Injustice 3, I really hope he finished his lines before.
Same.
I mean, I don't know if it's actually true or not, but I'd be shocked if they weren't making one. And then, I mean, we all know he was probably the Batman in there, so I hope that was
I
done.
mean, he is
But
in Injustice 1 and 2.
yeah, to be different from you, I love the Batman animated series. I love it, but I didn't watch that first. I watched Batman Beyond first, and I fucking love Batman Beyond. I
Fair
was
enough.
so in love with that, and that was, I always have more of a nostalgic, a little bit more for that one than I do the original animated series, even though I think the animated series is better. I that's the first time I ever heard
I mean, it is a
Kevin
direct
Conroy's
sequel
voice.
to the animated series,
Yeah,
so it's the same
so
continuity.
mhm.
Lady Aaron, thoughts on John Wick Chapter 4 trailer that we got? Nice reaction on the channel. Zach didn't watch it, so Zach, what did you think?
I don't need to see anything else from this movie. I know someone who actually got to see this movie, and so I asked him about the trailer. I said, "Does this spoil anything? Does this, like, did I fuck up and I shouldn't have watched it?" And he goes, "No." He goes, "That is a perfect trailer because the trailer doesn't show a lot. There's action in there, but my friend said, like, that is like 1% of the action in this film. So like he is like, because I told him, I was like, I don't know anything. Just like, he's like, this is the one thing I'll tell you. You think you've seen the best of John Wick? There's one action scene in here that is hands down top 3 action scenes of all time."
Man,
So
I cannot. You all know my thoughts on the John Wick franchise as
yeah,
a whole, so I don't need to say much. So I didn't watch the trailer, but I will tell you this: I got the press release for the trailer, and turns out the PR handling John Wick over here is the PR that usually does Paramount movies, which is the
oh,
best PR to
perfect.
work with here. If you go on my channel through this year, I never missed a fucking Paramount movie.
Yeah,
That's how good they are. So,
hell
um,
yeah.
all right. Have you guys been playing God of War Ragnarok lately? And if so, what are your thoughts on this game so far? Mine just arrived. As we were chatting Phase 4, I heard the doorbell ringing. So it's waiting for me. So I haven't started. Zach, be very careful with how you word it because I haven't started yet. The collector's edition is waiting for me back home. What do you think?
I'm almost done.
Okay.
I have 2 missions left, like 2 big story quests,
Mhm.
but the game is huge. When I say huge, I mean gigantic. And Ren, when you play it, I would recommend almost doing every side quest. That's the reason I actually haven't beaten it yet, is because every side quest, almost every single one. You remember the ones from the first one with like the ghost
Mhm.
that comes up and it's like, "Help me." Those ones I haven't done. But when it's a character that I care about or one that I'm kind of interested in learning a little bit more about, like Mimir, Mimir,
Yeah,
headless man
the
or
head.
bodiless man. There's a part where he goes, "Can you help me do this?"
Mhm.
And I'm like, "Yeah, let's do it." And that side quest was finished, and then it led into another one. And I
Okay.
learned more about Mimir in that side quest than I ever have in the entire game. I have a whole new perspective on Mimir now. It is, and there's multiple quests like that throughout the game. So now I'm very invested with like everything going on. This game is a masterpiece, though. I'll just say that. I think it's better than 2018 in almost every way, specifically
Wow.
when it comes down
Okay.
to bosses and enemies. Like, my biggest criticism of that 2018 one, and that's my favorite one, not including boss battles. God of War 3 still has the top tier boss battles. I don't think anything will ever beat that. But when you talk about emotion, depth, nuance, and moving forward, and seeing where Kratos now is in his life, it is like, I just get I get emotional over the simplest things, and that's where I'll leave it at. I'll have a full review of this game soon, but I fucking love this, and I cannot wait to see your thoughts on this.
Let me just tap something into the chat. All right. Lady Aaron, so Ren, as of this time next week, I'll be playing Pokemon Scarlet and Violet as they come out on Friday. Same here. Have you seen the leaks for some of the Pokemon, especially when it comes to the starter evolutions? And have you officially picked your starter? What your starter will be for your journey through the Paldea region? I have seen the leaks, and I have sent them to Zach as well because he wanted to check them out. And I have made up my mind. I am going with Fuecoco. I'm going with a fire starter. The water starter Quaxley looked cool when I saw the Dex stripes, But then when the actual images of Quaxaval came out, I was like, yeah, I definitely prefer Fuecoco. And then Meowscarada looks all right. I don't hate any of the starters. I think they look cool, which I haven't said in a while, funnily enough. But yeah, I'm very excited to go with Fuecoco, and I will have Scarlet on my hands next Friday as well in the morning. Zach, what about you? Did you decide with the pictures I sent? Better pictures
I,
have come out for the water starter since the
yeah,
one.
I really like the water starter, but I'm more set on the fire. I'm not picking up the game first day anymore. I have other
Okay.
shit to do, but I'm definitely gonna get it a couple weeks later. But I'm excited. I don't know. There's just something about me that I'm a little bit like nothing's the OGs, man. You know, like
Eh.
and I know Yumi talked about this with like Ruby and Omega. I think I even told you I finally started playing those.
Yes.
Because you know me, I think those games are heavily overrated. The originals, they're better. These versions are better. They're definitive, but
Oh,
they're still
the
not my
remasters
favorite.
are better. I agree with
Yeah,
that. Just the region is by far my favorite. Like
ah,
nothing comes close.
not for me. But that's just me, man. But I dig it, and I'm excited. This is the most interested I've been in a Pokemon game since Emerald, to be honest with you. Like
Hmm.
I have not like Sword and Shield I was excited for, but like wasn't hype. Black and White, X and Y. X and Y I guess would maybe I guess you could argue could be the last one, but I
Excellent
didn't
one is
love
good.
that game. I liked
Hmm.
it, but I didn't love it. But
I still
this
have to
one
buy Legends Arceus.
I still have not played that either.
Me
So
neither. All right. With Phase 4 of Marvel officially at an end, how would you rank all of Phase 4 movies and shows from favorite to least favorite and why? Check out my ranking coming out tomorrow, and check out Zach's ranking of the entire MCU. Lady Aaron, du- 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 du, what are your thoughts on Ash becoming world champion and becoming the strongest trainer in Pokemon after being on the show for over 25 years? Fucking finally! Took you long enough, you little bastard, you
hey,
eternal 10-year-old.
he got it before
Um,
Luffy got the One Piece. So
yeah, but I'm not wasting my time with One Piece. Not that I'm watching the Pokemon anime either, but now I'm going to tune in for whenever that episode comes out um, over here. I mean, I didn't actually see the episode. I just saw the headline, and finally, I mean, yeah, about
I
fucking
watched the
time.
scene. I watched this
You
like the
watched the
last
scene?
ten
What did you
minutes.
think?
Yeah, it was cool. Like I mean I had no
Oh,
idea what the fuck's going on. I haven't watched Pokemon since like
yeah,
the third generation, but
yeah.
you
That
know,
was the last one I watched too. About
yeah.
the Diamond and Pearl
Hmm.
seasons, I fell off.
But I'll say this, like, I mean, like for I'm sure for people who have watched every single episode of
Oh,
Pokemon, like this is
100%.
a
Yeah.
huge thing because like in those 10 minutes, I mean, they reflect on like the first three generations, like just in like a
Oh,
montage
okay.
thing, and I was like,
Yeah.
all right, that gets me. Plus, dude, the fact that Gengar was in his final fucking thing, that's my favorite
His
Pokemon.
team this season is dope. He has some. I wish he had more of a variety in terms of generations, but Gengar and Dragonite and Surfetched,
Yeah.
that's a dope team.
And
That's a
even
dope team.
Lucario, right? That's his
Lucario.
name.
Lucario is
Yeah.
one of my favorite Pokemon
That
of
was
all
a
time. So
really
yeah,
like their team they picked was very different and
yeah,
unique. Like Farfetch'd, like you said, like I what the fuck? Him? Out of
yeah,
anyone? Like it was cool.
yeah. Um, if you guys could invent one thing in the future, what would it be, and what would the details of this cool? I don't know about
I
details.
know.
I
I
would
have mine.
invent a machine to time travel. That's it. Time travel. Because time travel is dope. Zach?
Okay. Mine would be I would invent, and when I say this, I mean it. The next Twitter, since Twitter's gonna fall apart.
Oh, yeah. Nice. Can't be any worse than what it was. What are Gico EP? What are films where they get criticized for a certain aspect yet loved another film that, in your opinion, shares the same problem, whether you like the film or not? For example, I've seen people criticize Wakanda Forever for having a bloated runtime with a pretty crowded plot. And while I agree that movie could have cut out one subplot or even some characters that feel like setup for the MCU, I actually don't have that same. I actually have the same issue with the Batman. Good question.
Where's the block
Good
button?
question. You know what? Um, so I have somewhat that issue with the Batman, with the Wakanda Forever. I don't have that with the Batman. I will say I have the opposite problem with another MCU movie that should have maybe had Wakanda Forever's runtime, and that is Eternals. As long as Eternals was, as much as I love Eternals, there are some moments where I feel they could have been allowed to breathe a little bit more, and those extra 10 minutes would have sufficed to fix those issues. Because when it comes to bloated, the term bloated only means that you need to let it breathe a little more, that you need to give it a little bit more space. Um, and to me, I don't necessarily think Wakanda Forever is bloated, or at least that's not the term I would personally use, because I would just cut some things out there and the film would have worked better. Minimal things, very, very minimal things, because being bloated is not the main issue with that film. Eternals does feel somewhat bloated, so to give it that 10-minute space to breathe a little bit more would have fixed my issues. Zach?
I would really have to think on this. I have not off the top of my head, to be honest with you. But you picked a really good example.
All right. Lady Aaron, with God of War Ragnarok out now and getting very good reviews, do you think that God of War Ragnarok has a chance of being nominated for Game of the Year, thus giving Elden Ring some competition? I have no investment in Game of the Year. I did not play Elden Ring, so I don't know. But Zach, you're much more of a gamer than I am. What are your thoughts on this?
It's gonna be tough, definitely, because Elden Ring is great. It's one of the best games I've ever played, but so is God of War. So, it's hand in hand. I'm more of a story person. Elden Ring does not have a story. I mean, it really does not. There's a lore to it and really cool stuff to follow through, and it's a really awesome world to explore. But I'm more of a story person, so I would rather be emotionally invested than anything. Now, this is coming from a person who's beaten Elden Ring 4 times, so take that as what you will. I think God of War should win. I think it's going to be kind of how it was back in 2018. It was God of War versus Red Dead Redemption 2. Now, Red Dead Redemption 2 also had a very strong story. Red Dead Redemption 2 won almost everything besides Game of the Year and Best Narrative. So I think what we're going to end up seeing here is probably the exact same thing. Elden Ring's probably going to win a lot, and then God of
All right.
War. But it just depends, because maybe not everyone beats God of War by the time they have to vote for it. So, and that's where that could kind of come down to it. Elden Ring's been out since February. So,
All right. What is a really cool fact about Ren and Zach that no one knows about yet? It's something that you will keep not knowing about me. I generally don't know. Nothing is coming to my mind. Like, what is a cool fact about me? I don't know. I'm not cool, man. Zach, do you have a cool fact that people don't know about?
I have one, but I don't like sharing it publicly. Just
Okay.
no reason. I like I'll tell you privately. I don't care.
Okay.
But
Tell me in the private chat. I'm curious.
okay.
Yeah, I genuinely do not have one that is popping up in my mind. That people don't know about. No idea. No idea. Um, all right. Lady Aaron, favorite moment from Marvel Phase 4 and least favorite moment from Marvel Phase 4? Favorite moment. I mean, you got the greatest line, what is grief, if not love, persevering, which just captures the entire phase. You got, oh, no. That's for me, and it's probably going to sound very, very obvious. I had no idea. All
A
right.
lot of people don't until I tell them. So,
All right.
now you're going to look. Now you're going to, in my videos, you're going to be like,
my favorite moment, and it was so much my favorite that it caused me to do my first ever video essay, is when Icarus stops what he's about to do from killing Cersei and realizes what he has become, what he has done to his family. That's a fucking beautiful moment, man.
Your video essay is so good.
Always tears me up. Thank you very much. Least favorite moment: the entirety of She-Hulk episode 3. fucking hate that. It's awful. It is the one utterly shit thing, and even then, it's not as bad as Morbius that the MCU has done. The show as a whole, very watchable, quite fun at points. But that single episode, man, I really hate it. And even if you take out the twerking at the end, it's still the shittiest thing they've done. Zach?
I love the twerking scene, so that's actually my favorite thing.
No, you didn't.
In
He
Phase
doesn't.
4.
He's just saying that to mess with me. He doesn't.
No, if you go back and watch that video, dude, I have like that scene is just like fascinating for me to see in the MCU. I never thought I would ever see that in my life. So like honestly, yeah, it is one of the most memorable scenes. And not maybe the best way, but my favorite, just off the top of my head, I mean, it's hard not to go the 3 Spider-Man. I mean, it's really hard not to go that way.
Fuck yeah.
But I'm gonna go a little bit on a smaller moment. The boat scene from Thor: Love and Thunder. The boat scene from Thor: Love and Thunder. Where Mighty Thor and Thor are just having a conversation.
Yep.
That scene has stuck with me for so long.
Right?
Least favorite. My least favorite episode of She-Hulk was the whole fucking wedding episode. That episode just fucking made me mad. So I get the joke and all. It just that episode. It wasn't even a fun episode. Like it just was very. It was the filler. It literally was a filler episode. So that would probably be my least favorite. But yeah, that's that.
All right, Jico EP, what are some movies that came out before you were born or too young to see them that you would go back in time and watch them in theaters? Star Wars, the original Star Wars trilogy. Never seen them on the big screen. And probably never will at this point. But yeah, that's easily the one I would go back for. Zach?
There's a handful. Now I'm just gonna let everyone know I do have wedding stuff to go do, so this will be my last question, sadly.
That's all right.
Sorry, everybody. But this is a good question to kind of end on. There's a lot. Before I was born, I mean, fuck, man. I mean, Star Wars. I mean, either Star Wars or Raiders of the Lost Ark, because Raiders of the Lost Ark is like one of my favorite movies of all time. I
have
love
gotten
that
the chance to see that one.
See, and I've never had the chance. Like anytime
there's a theater here that plays like that, just does like marathon or plays older movies and stuff. So I've seen Raiders, I've seen Temple of Doom, and they never fucking played Last Crusade. I still haven't seen Last Crusade.
They'll probably do it before the new one though, right? You have to assume they
hopefully
would.
Maybe yeah. Because it was before Disney bought Fox. I don't know if now. I mean, I'd
be shocked.
So.
I would be shocked if they don't do a marathon of all of them. But and the other thing is Casablanca. I would have loved to have been like go opening weekend for that movie, like before anyone had known.
I also got the chance to see that one.
Have you? That's fucking cool.
It was like the 70th anniversary or something, and they like played it for 1 week, and I was
that's
like,
cool. What's I know we've talked about this a lot, but like what's a movie that you wish got, but I'm going to frame it differently because I know we've talked about movies that we missed in theaters. What's a movie that you wish went into theaters but has been on streaming so you didn't get to see it?
Oh, good question. Togo is a good one.
I still never saw Togo. I still need to watch that.
It's so good, dude. Like it came out. So Togo came out on Disney Plus the same weekend Rise of Skywalker came out in theaters, and Togo was a better Disney movie that weekend. I'll tell you that much.
That's with Dafoe, right? That's the Dafoe
That's with Dafoe,
movie.
yeah. Dafoe, and I believe the actress, I don't remember her name, but she's the one who plays Marilyn Monroe's mother and Weird Al's mother, funnily enough.
Wow.
What a coincidence. Nicholson. But yeah, probably Togo off the top of my head. Because then Netflix movies always come to festivals around these past few years. So Marriage Story, I've seen in theaters.
Me too.
The Wonder, I've seen in theaters. Irishman, I've seen in theaters. So I've seen a lot of them in theaters, luckily enough. One that I missed was Blind Spotting, but we talked about next week. So yeah, off the top of my head, it's just Togo. Yeah, because that's a really good one. And it's very cinematic too.
Yeah, if I were to just pick one, like off the top of my head, it would probably be the one that Elba did. It was like one of the first big Oscar films that Netflix was pushing, Beasts of No Nation.
Oh, Beasts of No Nation.
Yeah, that I just genuinely. Or
I've never seen that one.
The Five Bloods.
Five Bloods.
That movie. Fuck me,
was a
that
good
movie
one.
didn't come out in theaters. It probably would
Yeah,
have, but because of COVID and everything, it wasn't. So yeah, that probably would have been it.
yeah,
But all right,
that's a good one.
see everyone. I will talk to you guys later.
See
Have
you
fun,
next
Ren.
week.
See you,
Have
brother.
fun,
Bye.
brother. Bye bye. All right, everyone, and I'm going to take over from now on. Um, so we continue with Geek OEP. Since Wakanda Forever honors Chadwick Boseman, who is the celebrity death that both shocked you and affected you the most? Chester did it for me. Chris Cornell, not so much for me. Like I enjoyed Chris Cornell, but I just didn't connect like too much with his music. Apart from select fews, obviously the Casino Royale theme. Taylor Hawkins, Robin Williams really fucking hit me in 2014. Cameron Boyce was just shocking because he was a kid. He was so young. But Robin Williams for me, Chester, Kevin Conroy did it yesterday, and Carrie Fisher in 2016. I was watching Rogue One for the second time, and right before it started, I was about to say that when it ended, but right before it started, and knowing that scene with Carrie Fisher comes at the end, obviously a deep fake, but still Carrie Fisher. And right before the movie, I see the news that she passed away. Yeah, those are a few of the ones for me that really sucked when they went. And Robin Williams because of the circumstances. So, GGOP, thoughts on Jimmy Kimmel hosting the Oscars again for a third time? For me, I guess it's okay, and I'm sure Kimmel will be fine. But I would rather have Conan O'Brien host the show, since he is well liked by not just the industry but also audiences. Since he's one of enough, if not the best late night talk show, and has experience hosting award shows. I like it. I think Kimmel did a really good job in both the times he hosted, despite the La La Land debacle. Um, and he certainly is the best talk show host these days. I think Conan would have been fresher of an idea to have him as a host. I would have just brought back Billy Crystal, and I think we should still be on the train of having Martin Short, Steve Martin, and Selena Gomez host the Oscars, not as their characters from Only Murders in the Building, but just that trio has become so recognizable. That show really is a four-quadrant show. It appeals to families, maybe not small kids because they swear here and there. Um, and for some reason, all their f bombs are so well inserted into the show. I just love it. Um, but yeah, have those three. Have those three host the Oscars. Lady Aaron, would you agree with me when I say that this month has been incredible in terms of Pokemon Scarlet and Violet coming out, Pokemon having a collaboration with Splatoon 3 on the latest Splatfest? I don't know what that is. And of course, with what happened with Ash in the latest episode of the anime, would you agree or disagree? If you disagree, then what would you say was the best year for Pokemon ever to you, and why? I have no idea. Clearly, in terms of all this, I'm just invested in the games coming out. Best year in Pokemon, I really don't know. I guess when the third generation came out, we got Emerald after Ruby and Sapphire, and then when the Sinnoh games came out, we got Platinum, which to this day is still the greatest Pokemon game ever. Not necessarily my favorite region, but Platinum is by far the best Pokemon game. So yeah, I would maybe say that. Gigo B, I mentioned how in the episode where you guys talked the complaints people had with Phase 4 in the MCU right now about the quality dropping, I cited movies like The Batman, The Suicide Squad, and Peacemaker as proof of that. But would you guys say that shows like The Boys has something to do with the reception of the MCU right now and feeling genre fatigue? With some feeling like they're growing tired of the formula, like the lighthearted jokes and similar structure, and having a show like The Boys being a comic book show, but also feeling more mature, darker, and even take jabs at the MCU from time to time. I think The Boys has somewhat that effect on most people, but to me, it has the opposite. Where if I become tired of the MCU, here's this other completely different thing in The Boys. If I'm feeling tired of The Boys, here's this other completely different thing in Peacemaker, in The Batman, in The Suicide Squad. Having a plethora of comic book shows from different studios with different tones, with different tackling, with different genres, that's what makes all of them thrive. That's why I like Black Panther as much as I like Black Adam. They're both reaching for different things. They're both tackling different stuff, and they do it mostly well in their own unique way. And so I think having these different, having this variety is the spice of life. Having variety does not make me tired of one thing, and I begin preferring all the others. It makes me enjoy all the things that I already enjoyed just a little bit more. Personally, um, top 10 favorite performances in Phase 4. Also, biggest surprise, underrated, overrated, and disappointing film of this phase. Those are those are way too many off the top of my head. Um, but let me check. So, Marvel Cinematic Universe Phase 4. Um, favorite performance, favorite performances. Tony Leung in Shang-Chi, Oscar Isaac in Moon Knight, Christian Bale as Gore is so good. Um, Chris Hemsworth in Love and Thunder as well. Tom Hiddleston as Loki. Tenoch Huerta and Angela Bassett in Wakanda Forever. They're amazing. Iman Vellani as Kamala Khan. That young lady is a revelation. Absolutely. Let me just... Okay. So those are just off the top of my head a few of the ones I really loved. Biggest surprise in Phase 4. Honestly, Thor Love and Thunder. Thor Love and Thunder really was a surprise because I went into it, I enjoyed the trailers, surprisingly, and I already enjoy Thor as a character. I enjoyed the original immensely. But coming from Ragnarok, even being a massive fan of Jojo Rabbit and learning to trust Taika Waititi as a creator, I went into the film like, is this one going to work for me, or is it just going to be more of the same that was in Ragnarok? So that's the biggest surprise. Underrated, Eternals, obviously. Overrated. Hmm. Out of, by process of elimination, I guess WandaVision is the one that fits best the overrated category because it just isn't the best out of their TV shows. But even then, I really really like WandaVision. It's great. Disappointing film of this phase. Film, I gotta go Black Widow maybe because I'm loving Black Widow in its first act. I'm loving Black Widow in its second act, and then the third act happens. In terms of shows, most disappointing, I gotta go Falcon and Winter Soldier and Hawkeye. There's a tie between those two. I can't quite make my mind up. Um, Doctor Strange: The Multiverse of Madness was certainly a disappointment. I was expecting it to be as good, if not better, than the original, and it certainly was there. Still a really good movie, still a ton of fun to watch. I've gone back to it repeatedly, but it disappointed despite still being good. You guys might answer this question while discussing it, but do you think people look back on this phase more fondly once Phase 5 and 6 comes around? Similar to Phase 3, help the quality of Phase 1 and 2 of their weaker films? Too soon to say, brother. Too soon to say. We will only be able to say that once we actually see for ourselves Phase 5 and 6. Because even right now, we were right about people coming around on Eternals. But I'm not seeing people coming around on Love and Thunder, honestly. So you win some, you lose some. So I don't think I don't feel comfortable in answering that right now until I see phases 5 and 6 for myself. Maybe we come out around phase 5 and I'm like, oh, this totally makes phase 4 better already, and people will start coming back around on it. But maybe they won't. Gigo EP, have you guys heard the rumor of Owen Wilson as Mobius possibly being in Deadpool 3? And do you think Deadpool and Wolverine might end up going into the TVA? I heard that rumor. I haven't been able to confirm that rumor with any one of my sources. So as of right now, I'm putting that, I'm archiving that on the file cabinet. I'm not counting it as a real thing. But I wouldn't be shocked if it happens as a gag, as one of the jokes in the film. But I don't think it's going to be like the narrative of the film. So, Gigo EP, how would you guys rank the comic book movies shows this year from best to worst? Just so you know, I'm not going to answer this question because at the end of the year, I will have a ranking of comic book movies and comic book shows this year. But number 1, The Batman. Number 2, Wakanda Forever. Number 3, Peacemaker. Number 4, Werewolf by Night. Number 5, The Boys Season 3. Number 6, Moon Knight. Number 7, Multiverse of Madness. Number 8, Ms. Marvel. Number 9, She-Hulk. I hate how low you have Love and Thunder. Black Adam, I really don't mind. I enjoy that film, but I don't mind. But seeing Love and Thunder so low and below She-Hulk, man. Black Adam at number 11, and number 2, Morbius. At least we can agree on the bottom one. GOP, now that this phase is over, what is your most and least anticipated Phase 5 project? Let me check what is Phase 5. Phase 5 MCU project. It was just off the top of my head, I can't quite remember. So let's hope my internet is of help here. And let me check something real quick behind me. Nope. All right. Phase 5 least, Echo is probably my least anticipated, the one I'm least hyped for. And I lost your question. Here it is. Least anticipated for sure, Echo. Thunderbolts has a good chance of winning me over, but as of right now, it's just very indifferent. Most anticipated, Loki Season 2, Secret Invasion. I'm really fucking hyped for. I'm really, really excited for it. So yeah. Now, the GOP, how do you feel when people say the franchise should have ended after Endgame and compare it to shows like The Simpsons, Family Guy, or SpongeBob, where they started out really good to great, then the company keeps milking it to where the quality drops and starts to overstay its welcome? For me, like those shows, even though Endgame was ending for the saga in that chapter, it still feels like there are more stories to tell with remaining characters and introducing new ones. Just took the words I had out of my mouth. Those Family Guy, and I never seen SpongeBob, but Family Guy and the Simpsons are like episodic stuff. They don't necessarily have a story. This has a story. This has so much more potential to keep on expanding and growing that it really should not have ended with Endgame. You finished with Endgame on one phase, you start another one. Keep going. Dominic Scott, will you have your own tribute to Kevin Conroy on your channels? I don't do tributes. If you're asking like about a quick short, I was editing my Wakanda Forever spoiler review when that came out, when the news came out, that is. So I don't know if now would be worth it, but if you guys want to see some quick thoughts on Kevin Conroy's passing, let me know in the chat. And I do it as a short, not like a full video, but I'd be interested in that if you guys are. WC Scott, with less than a month away from Spider-Man No Way Home anniversary, what do you still say about that movie? Everything that I said in my review. Absolutely gratifying experience. A celebration of Spider-Man for Spider-Man fans and all that comes with it. So it was a really joyous film to watch. Why do we live in a society where people why do we live in a society where people to just complain? Hang on, let me try and figure out what you meant here. Why do we live in a society where people just complain, like before Disney, people all complain about the Star Wars prequels, and look at everything these days, the Halloween movies, people complain about, will it ever stop? Well, I don't think there's anything wrong about complaining. I think there's a lot wrong with feeling entitled. Like studios owes us something, like the movies themselves, the franchises owe us something. Art does not owe us anything. Art does exist for us to enjoy and not enjoy. And everything in movies is art. Morbius is art. It's art I despise personally, but it is art. Halloween Ends is art. It's art that I found monumentally stupid, but it is art. So I don't think there's anything wrong with complaining. It's just how far do you take that? And there's definitely a line that should never be crossed. And these days, a lot of people cross those lines because they just feel entitled. They just feel like they are the center of the universe. They just feel like art and these stories and these characters and these franchises and these creators owe them something. and they don't. If you don't enjoy it, say you don't enjoy it, and move on to the stuff you do enjoy. Um, hey, Ren and Zach, what if is my favorite MCU show? When do you think we'll get a trailer for season 2? I have no idea. I would have to have an idea of when the season is coming out, and my brain right now is telling me that it's somewhere in spring next year. So if it's spring, maybe after the holiday special, maybe Christmas, maybe early January. If it is like during spring, March to April, something like that. Um, so I would definitely expect it around that time. Dominican Scott, thoughts on Pennywise prequel series moving forward? I am genuinely not interested. I don't know what the point of that is. Because Pennywise, what makes him cool is the intrigue. What makes him cool is the mystique that comes with the character, is that you don't really know too much about him. Um, so I'm not really a fan of what they're doing right now with going forward with this series. Maybe I will watch the series and I will certainly tune into the first episode and I will really enjoy it. And I'll be like, oh, this is actually cool. I was totally wrong. As of right now, I'm not super excited. GGOP, who's one fellow reviewer you guys haven't got on your show, and if they had the time, who would it be? Austin Burke. I've reached out to Austin a couple of times, and we chat just about stuff every now and then. He's a super nice guy. He every now and then reacts to my stories, like when I'm watching something and I react to his. That just a really nice, really cool guy. Whenever we get the chance to talk, but whenever I reached out for him to be on the show, he just happened to be busy, and he had his reasons, and it just never worked out. But if I could get someone that hasn't been on our show or just on my channel, someone I haven't collabed in general with, it would definitely be Austin Burke, because every time I've interacted with him, he just seems like a really cool guy. But it just never worked out. So I decided to leave him alone, as I kind of felt I was being too much of a pest. Not that he ever said that, not that he ever directly implied that that was the case, but I just felt bad and I didn't want to bother him anymore. And I thought in my head, if he ever finds the time, if he ever is interested, I'm sure he'd reach out. It hasn't happened, and that's okay. But to me, he would definitely be one that I would get. So if you want to see him on the channel, tag him on Twitter. Let him know that I want him on the channel. Let him know that Zach wants him on the show, that we love to talk to him about MCU or whatever the topic is that week. So yeah, Austin Burke would definitely be the one. I'd love to have Sean back. It's been a while since I had Sean, since I directly interacted with Sean on camera, because Sean and I talk semi-regularly with one another on Twitter. Griffin, it's been a while since I've had Griffin. I don't think I ever had Griffin solo on my channel. And if I did, it was like once, but I genuinely do not remember. But yeah, Austin Burke would be the one in terms of people who had never been on the channel. I'm going to refresh the community page to check if there are any new questions, and there are not. So that's going to do it for this especially short episode of This Week in Geek. Thank you so much, everyone, for joining us. I apologize for Zach having to run off early. Yeah, it's tough to take. Austin Putnam, we've had on the show before. Oscar Expert, I'm familiar with the name, but I don't know who he actually is. But I know Luke, one of my friends from here in London, and he also does YouTube. He is familiar with him. I just never interacted with the person, so I don't know if necessarily we would get along or if he's ever interested in. So I recognize the name, but I don't know the person. But that's going to do it for this week's This Week in Geek. Next week, we're going to be back to normal. It's going to be me and Zach once more taking over the show and discussing whatever the topic ends up being. Maybe we'll talk Pokemon Scarlet and Violet. Maybe we'll talk God of War Ragnarok, not Thor Ragnarok. We've talked plenty about that. So yeah, make sure you stay tuned for the Marvel Phase 4 ranking. Go check out the Black Panther Wakanda Forever spoiler review. There's a post-credit scene or mid-credit scene in this case explained. There's a spoiler-free review as well as my first impressions on next week's Netflix release of 1899. Stay tuned for that one. It's a great show you don't want to miss. So until the next one, everyone, love each other and love the movies. And Phase 4 really was great. Bye-bye! And it's not logging me out. Fuck's sake. Log me out, motherfucking StreamYard. Why are you botching this logout? I said goodbye to everyone. Now it's just awkward. Now we're just gonna have to sit here and wait for me. And yeah, having trouble connecting. I don't know why. I have perfect connection to the internet. So please just let me log out of my own podcast. This is an awkward goodbye. It's like when you say goodbye to someone and then you both walk in the same direction. I said goodbye, and now we're still both here, looking at one another, and I'm just talking, so there's no silence on this stream. But I legit need StreamYard to log me out, and it's refusing to end the podcast. Just yeah. And now we're just here. How you guys been? Are you cool? Are you having a good weekend? I hope you have a good weekend. It's cheat day. It's Saturday, which means tonight I'm going to have pizza. I don't know what I'm going to be watching. It's either going to be Spirited, the Ryan Reynolds, Will Ferrell, Apple Plus TV comedy, or Slumberland, which is also coming out next week on Netflix, starring Jason Momoa. And I'm super excited for it because it looks really, really fun. And it stars Jason Momoa, which is always a treat as far as I'm concerned. I generally never had this happen to me though. StreamYard refusing. Why don't you let me finish the podcast? Do you want me to keep doing